Hello, creative friends. My name is Joey. I'm so glad you're here. Yesterday, I got my deluxe Czech bundle from Didi Beads, and of all the boxes, and I get a lot of beads in boxes, I would say if I had to choose like my top 3 things that are joyful and really inspire me, I would say this deluxe Czech bundle would be in that category. Stella does an amazing job. There's always something that's delightful, usually something I've never seen, or maybe I've seen it but not in that colorway. And this month what that just thrilled me were these little Czech glass bell beads. So when I did the unboxing, I made this little pair of bell threader earrings, and they are just so sweet. I just love these beads. But also in the Czech bundle, my favorite sort of brick/flower bead was in there in a colorway that I don't have. And also I have a love affair with pressed glass bicone beads, and I just think this kind of denim blue color is stunning. I think this is really a denim friendly project. And then look at the 4mm Czech glass faceted rounds that were in this collection this month. So this is a sampler of Czech glass that Stella, the founder of Didi Beads, does. If you're not familiar, it's not a monthly thing. It's not even a subscription thing. She does them periodically, every month, every 6 weeks, as she gets the beads. She's amazing at sourcing beads. And as of this morning, this is still available. This deluxe Czech bundle is still available. And the cool thing is what you see me unboxing and what you see me working with is exactly what you'll get. She doesn't usually substitute things, but these little bell beads were just so inspiring. So I've gone into my stash, and I had ordered this past season these little bell charms. They're little brass charms. They even have the little bell noise. It's very slight, a very soft little tinkling noise. And I was thinking, these beads actually woke me up because I was thinking about a little dangling section with the Czech glass bell and the little brass bells. And I pulled out a gold-filled lobster claw clasp, and this is just from my stash. It's an assortment. I've reordered this so many times, so I can link that in the description box. And I also am using a little bit of chain from my stash. This is solid brass, and it's e-coated for anti-tarnish. Stella is selling some of this e-coated chain now on her website, so I'm not sure what she has at this time, but check out her section of chain because she is getting some of these anti-tarnish pieces in. And I'm going to be using my Soft Flex craft wire because it also has an anti-tarnish coating, and I'm going to be using the 20 gauge for making these elongated bicones into components, but I'm going to go down to the 24 gauge for this cool little component. Let me show you what I've done here. I really love this bead, so I set out to just frame it and feature it with the wire, and I've done like a double wrap here. And so each of my flower beads, my what are we going to call these? I actually should see what the actual name of these are because I call them brick beads with an embossed flower on them. But I'm going to be making a beaded chain, and it's going to be separated. I have a little bit of it done. It's going to be separated by these links that I've created with those 4mm Czech glass faceted rounds. And my idea is to do a chain wrap bracelet. And so I'm pretty much using all of the flower beads, all of the elongated bicones, and maybe even all of these, and a little bit of my chain. So I've taken my chain apart and done 3 links, a component, 3 links, and a component. And so I've just made a start. What I'm thinking is I want to get to about 14 inches so that it wraps around my wrist twice. And then it's going to be adjustable, so my lobster claw clasp can hook on any spot on this chain. So I've got a lot of components to make, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did. So this is my 20 gauge wire. I'm using the 2 different sizes of my 1-step looper. The 1.5mm is the smallest that this tool comes in. And when I start out with no beads on my wire, I don't need to go through the guide hole because the tool makes a cut right here. So that wastes like 1/2 inch of wire. So as long as you place your wire in the tool just past that back jaw, it's going to, let me go slowly, it's going to make a fresh blunt cut there's your little scrap. And so you can skip that step with your cutters of giving yourself a fresh cut, and it makes the loop for you as you close here. And I'm just going to pull this wire down, smooth, warm, straighten. And now I see that this loop is centered on that wire. And when I remove the tool, I have a perfect simple loop. And I love doing beaded chains with this. You can totally do this with your pliers if you like to do them that way. But I keep the tool in my hand, just swing it out of my way, and then I add my beads. And, you know, I get through a beaded chain this way pretty quickly, and it saves my hand because I make like 30 to 40 pieces of jewelry a week. So sometimes my wrist is just crying. So this really helps with that. So then once there's a bead on the wire, then you do the same thing, but this time I will use the guide hole. I'm feeding the wire through, and I'm going to gently close. I'm not popping this tool closed. I'm just using it to kind of hold things in place. And I want to make sure that I'm not putting too much pressure. So I usually back my bead out. It depends on the shape of your bead, but I usually back it away just a millimeter or so. And then as I gently close, I can see that it's making that cut for me. And then before I close the tool, I'm maintaining control here. I'm going to pull my bead down just the way that I did the wire and continue to close. And now that loop is perfectly lined up with that loop. If for some reason you become misaligned, now's the time to make that adjustment, and voila. Isn't it gorgeous? I just love that tool. You know, it's really consistent for me. I make really nice simple loops, but they can be inconsistent because, you know, I'm not a machine. It's the human hand. But with that tool, when I'm doing something where all the loops are going to be lined up next to each other, it just does a great job. So I am also going to use this 20 gauge wire to make this other component. And so I'm going to start out the same way, putting a simple loop in one end. And then I am going to take a piece of my 24 gauge wire and just get some wraps on here. Now what I did on this, and I just determined this, I put 5 wraps, and I just sort of counted because I want these to be pretty close to the same. And I even thought about doing like a herringbone wrap. And I did, kind of, full disclosure, started out thinking that's what I would do, but I quite like just framing out this bead and really featuring the bead. It's almost like outlining it with gold. And I just kind of fell in love with that, and I thought, you know, it's my favorite, one of my favorite Czech glass beads. It's hard for me to say anything is my favorite in beads because they're all my favorites, but so I'm just going to take my 24 gauge wire and just come to this side and just get it's very soft wire, so I'm just going to pinch it with my thumb and finger and just get some wraps in here. So I'm just counting. That's like 3, 4. You know, if it's 4 or 5, it's not going to matter that much. And then I'm going to trim this. And that's too much of a mess for me. If you like messy wraps, you can. And honestly, I'm going to be wrapping over these, so it's not so crucial, but I'm going to tuck that and put my pliers inside the loop and just kind of tighten up those coils and make sure it's nice and tight to the core wire. And now I think I'm looking at it, and I think I do want to do one more wrap. So just get a hold of it and wrap it around another time. And I'm just making those coils really nice and neat. And I can see my cut end there is a little bit sharp. So the start is done, and I have now this wire hanging out here. I'm sorry if it's hitting the camera, it's a little bit long. And I'm going to take one of my beads and thread it on the 20 gauge and just push it up to that loop. And don't stress too much about keeping this in line, because as you wrap, it's going to move a bit, but when you're all done, you can easily realign everything. And then I'm just going to like frame this bead with the wire, just go down the side. It's easy to you know, like get it down one side, and then as you can see, this loop is turning, but that's okay. I can fix that at the end. I've readjusted all of them, and whatever you have to do to get it really tight to the side of the bead. That's what I love about this bead. Can you see it has the space there to accommodate this little wire frame? So I just think it's beautiful. And then I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to go, I guess, to the back. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to just wrap 5 wraps up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll do the same thing. This side is a little bit trickier to, get tidy up your coils. So I do with my nylon jaw pliers. Just push. It's 24 gauge wire, so it's pretty accommodating. And now I am going to wrap on top of those. I'm going to go back down. I need to land right here so that I can frame the other side of the bead. So same thing, just pinch that, holding on to everything, and I'm going to just coil right back down on top of what I just did. So just like that. And I'll tidy this up too with my pliers. Okay, and I want to get this wire to come back around right on top of the bead. Keep it nice and straight. So as you can see, my bead is still moving, and honestly I thought about leaving that because I like that. I like that little bit of movement, but in the end I decided on like framing out this bead. So now I'm going to do that same thing, just come down the bead to this side. It does resemble a herringbone wrap, and like I said, I started out playing with that idea of like really showcasing this bead. But I'm going to do that same thing, just come around to the back, and before I start wrapping, I'm just going to like take my pliers and push this 24 gauge wire as close as I can get it to my bead, and then I'm going to wrap back up to my loop, just right on top of what I already did. And snip and tuck, and I'll tidy everything up. Make sure there's nothing sharp, like always. And I have to say, I feel like a lot of the jewelry things we do is really repetitive, and I'm always conscious of people's time and not taking forever, so I tend to edit out a lot of my work. Like I show you guys what I'm doing in my videos, and then I do the rest off camera. And then, you've seen what I do, but I do like all the components off camera. And I got a really sweet comment. She said, "Your videos are too short." And I thought, too short? And she said, "I like to bead along with you." And I thought about that. So when I was doing this project, I said, well, let me do another bead on camera. And, I just thought that was really sweet. I always think about people's time. And of course, you can't please everybody, because I also get comments where people say your videos are too long and you talk too much and like all that, so you can't please everybody. But anyway, I thought I would do a little extra work in this video for those of you that like to bead along. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get a simple loop in here. This is now a 2-sided bead. It looks great on both sides. I will use the guide hole, and I'm going to put my wraps now right up to the jaw of the plier, and it makes that cut and that loop. And same thing, line everything up. And here's where, if it were misaligned in any way, you could fix that. And that one little component is done. I'm just gonna close my loop. I like to, with a little bit of force, work harden my loops, and at the same time kind of tidy everything up. And if I want to snuggle a wire up to a bead, I'll grab it with my nylon jaw pliers. I'm pretty careful. I can do things even with my chain nose pliers, but if I feel like it's not snuggled up enough, I'll do this. You can also, with this fine gauge wire, you can do it with your fingers too. But isn't that so pretty? I just love that component. I think it's just, adds a little something special. So these are getting connected. Let me go ahead and make this other one too. Get a little bit longer piece of wire. So it's going to be the same thing. Then I do have, I think I'm going to turn all of those into components. or most of them. Let's see how my length is. It's was a little bit hard for me to judge, but I can adjust my length with making these components and also with my chain. Oh, before I put my bead on, let me get another piece of I've unraveled from the spool some of my wire over here. Okay, so same thing, I'm just going to come to this side and just kind of use my fingers to get it in there and get about five to six wraps. But you can tuck ends and that sort of thing after your beads are on, and sometimes it's even easier because you have more leverage. Like right now there's literally nothing for me to hold on to, but once the bead is on and the wrap is on, I'll be able to tuck it a little bit better. But I'm a little bit of a fuss budget. I'm actually a lot of a fuss budget with my jewelry, and just like my brain won't let me move on until I have it looking good. Oh, let's see how I did. Yeah, so like I'm pretty happy with that. It's not as tight as my other one, but when the bead is on there, it'll be okay. And I do want to like keep this wire straight because this is the piece that's going to go down the side of the bead. Okay, now I can add my bead, and it's going to be the same thing again. Just snuggle it down and get a hold of it. I want to make sure that I pull my 20 gauge wire. Whoops. I want to make sure that I pull it so that it's really nice and tight when I wrap around. I feel like it's slipping. There, I got it now. And I'm just going to do my five or six wraps. Okay, that looks great. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Wrap down. My wire has slipped off a little bit here. Okay, now I'm going to hold everything in place and wrap down on top of those. And I did find that I could tighten these a little bit, even the second ones, just because it's such fine gauge wire. And I'm going to do that. Got to get it to come back around, so I'm in position to go down the other side of the bead, just like that. So pretty. And it's pretty simple. If you're kind of new to wire working, I would say this is a pretty simple thing to try. This technique would work really well on a cube bead. I love to do herringbone wrap on a cube bead too, because one of the issues is that this bead has a little bit of soft corners, so trying to frame it, you have to get that just in that sweet spot. I mean, I did it, but if you want to make this even easier, a cube bead might be a good alternative. Going to go ahead and close and work hard, and because I will open and close my beaded chain loop. So let's see where I'm at here with my length. Let's see what I have going on here. I'm going to just lay everything out And it looks like I've got a good length. I haven't even added in all of these components. I just did a couple here, so let me check and see. I might be able to go around 3 times. Wow, I'm at about 13 inches just with that. So maybe this is going to be a triple strand wrap bracelet. Okay, let me make some components here. I'm going to just dump all these little guys out, these beauties. And so on these, on my smaller components, I'll show you this one. On these, I use the next size up on the one-step looper. I went up to the 2 1/4 millimeter. That's the medium size. This tool comes in 3 sizes. And if you're left-handed, I have seen at least the smaller size made for left-handed beaters. So it is available that way. But the reason that I went up to the larger loop is that these are going to be my connectors, and that way, since it's part of a chain, the larger loop makes the chain like more fluid, more it doesn't get kinked. Like, just a larger loop gives it more space to move around, if that makes sense. So I'm going to just make a few of these guys. Let's see, how many do I need if I do the whole thing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so only 6. I could also do a section of my chain where it's going to be adjustable in just a beaded chain with those. That might be really pretty. But I think what I'll do is go ahead and connect my main beads that are done and see where my length is at. And I love that this is two-sided, especially for a wrap bracelet. Whether I pick these beads, no matter which way I put the bracelet on, it looks the same on both sides, and I really like that. My dad was a chef, and he loved watching everybody cook, but he loved to watch Rachel Ray, and he thought it was so clever that she always had a big bowl on her counter for her trash, like eggshells and peeling of things. And so I find myself doing that with my wire, making a little trash bowl for all the little scraps of wire. I think of my mom and dad every day. When I had those beads laying out on the mat, I did not think I was going to get a chain this long, but wow. This I love because when I do a wrap style bracelet, I a lot of times bring those on trips because you can unwrap it and wear it as a necklace. But this being a chain will be, even more so. So look at this, you guys. Oh my goodness. I love it so much, and I can definitely add in some chains. So let's see, this can go right here. And then I think I'm going to do a little bit more of a beaded chain. Let me see where my clasp would be. Ah, that is so gorgeous. So the way I do my wrap bracelets is I lay my chain part. Let me remove this. I love this bracelet. I've been wearing it like crazy since I made it. If you didn't see this video, I'll link it below. This is super easy. It's 2 equal lengths of oval memory wire. And what I did is made a seed bead loop on my Soft Flex 49 strand and made loops on the end and strung it right on this second to the last bar. And then I strung a shank button. If you can see, I strung a shank button right on the second to the last bar. So it's this gorgeous sweetheart cuff bracelet that has this wonderful little closure, and ever since I made it, I can't stop wearing it. So if you didn't see that, I'll link it in the description box below. But the way I put on a wrap style bracelet is lay the chain across my arm, and then I'll wrap this around, and now I can see like how long it is and where I might want to close it. Let me loosen that up, and so it's adjustable. When I put the clasp on, it can clasp there, or I can make it a little bit bigger, and then that tells me how much more I might want to add as far as the beaded chain. So I really like that, and I'm going to use something else that, if you've been on my channel before, I'm sure you have seen it. I like to up my quality a little bit. So these are gold filled, they're called twisted jump rings, but I call them diamond cut. And I just love these. They're a nice thick gauge, and you can barely find where they were cut. And I'm going to use that to put my lobster claw on. And this is also a really cool little set. It's an assortment of lobster claw clasps, and all different ones, different little patterns, different shapes and sizes. Some of them have the little ball that goes around 360 degrees. And like for me, when I'm making really special jewelry or something I know I will wear all the time, I will up my game a little bit to some gold filled findings. It's not that expensive, and I don't use them on everything, but it is just something that I really like to do. So my lobster claw clasp is going to go on this end of the bracelet. Like I say, with these diamond cut jump rings, it is tricky sometimes to find where they open, and I really love that, because when I take my time and close it really well, you can't see, it looks like a solid ring. It looks like a solid gold ring. The cut just gets lost in the split gets lost in the cut. So that can now clasp anywhere on here, but I am going to add my little bells. And so I'm just going to get some head pins. I use these really fine gauge gold plated brass head pins for my for the earrings that I showed you, and they work really well with the little bells. So I am going to, let me decide what I want to do here on my earrings, because this is going to be a set, why not? On my earrings, I put one of the Czech glass beads above, but since this is going to be a charm, I don't think I want it to be that long, but I think I will put a little something at the top. These beautiful little donut shaped disc spacers also came from Didi beads, and I love them. I'm gonna add, I think, one of those on the top of each of my little bells. What I was thinking is to do a Czech glass bell, a brass bell, a Czech glass bell, and then another brass bell on the end. I don't know if that's going to be too much, but I'm going to try it. If it's going to be like too much of a dangle, then I'll remove some. But I'm going to start out making a bell charm section on this. So I'm going to just do a wire wrapped loop, a 90-degree bend, and then put my round nose pliers down very close to the tip to make that loop really small. Bring the wire over the barrel of the plier. Now the bottom barrel just became my top when I rotate it. And now I'm going to pull this wire around and underneath. And now I just want to center everything. So I have a really nice loop, really perfect little loop. And I'm going to grab a hold of it with my bent chain nose pliers, kind of lock it into place. And then with my other pliers, just wrap down to my bell. When I wrap, I really like to make as neat of a coil as I can, where one wrap lays right beneath the previous one. And when I come in and tuck that little wire and straighten everything up, it's just perfection. It's small, but it's so beautiful. And I have to do the same thing on this one. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention, when I unboxed, one of my bells had a blocked hole, and I was going to do a little trick, but I ended up sitting here quietly with this tiny little reamer and just got whatever was in the hole, I got it out, and so I was able to use it without doing anything further to it. But if you need a trick, I got a bead with no hole in my first project called A Night at the Symphony, and I did show my little trick for when you really don't want to lose a bead and it doesn't have a hole, and it's easy and fun. Okay, both my little bells are ready to be charms on my bracelet. Oh, they're so sweet. The other thing I could do, I'm still playing with how I want to do these. One there, one here, one there, and then another little section of chain, and that one at the end maybe. Okay, I need another little piece of my 20 gauge wire. Okay, I'm going to make a few more beaded components. These to the bottom, and then I'm going to add a bell on the very end. I have a thing about my extender chains not ending without a charm or even just a little tiny bead, just something like a finish to the end of an extender chain. I almost never leave mine empty, almost never. So on the bottom of this extender chain, I am going to put one of these little bells. No jump ring or anything, just straight on. Close that really well. And now I'm going to create my charms going up the bracelet. So I think, and I will use jump rings for this, and I think I'm just going to use little jump rings that I made out of this same 22 gauge wire. I kind of make them and put them in this little jar so they are ready. Let's see, do I want really small ones? I might actually have to make some. Let's see what I have made up already. So I'm pretty sure that this is, yeah, that's the one that I use the most. I love this plier for making jump rings. So I'm just going to take a piece of my wire, start with a nice fresh blunt end, and I'm going to make sure it's not sticking out, so that will be my first coil. And then I'm just going to, well, if I can get a hold of it, just make a coil. Just going to use up this little piece of wire and just coil it all to the end. Now I'm going to come to the spot where I started coiling, and with the flush side of my cutters, just snip one ring at a time up that coil. So I think I'm going to come, let's see, let me see, I'm going to put this one up here, and I think I'm going to put this one right there. That's the plan. Okay, and I have a little trick. Instead of putting my jump ring through one of these loops, I'm putting it around the whole circumference. So let me attach this and I'll show you. It's a trick of mine and it works really well. You can definitely attach it inside a loop, and there are applications where that's pretty good. But when you attach it around the circumference like that, no matter which way I put this on, this charm is never stuck. This dangle moves freely 360 degrees around, and especially for a bell, I think it's lovely. And on a wrap bracelet too, because you'll pick it up all different ways to put it on. So that is my little, just my little trick for that. And you can, if you want it more stable, you can put it through any of these loops. And I'm going to do this one over. In fact, I just see that I need to close this a little bit better. Just a little bit, and work hard in it. Okay, I'm going to attach this one the same way. Where did you go? Put my little bell on. I love these bells. They are not noisy, but they do have the little tinkling sound ever so slight. and I just thought they were so sweet. I wanted to make a pair of earrings, but I haven't gotten to it yet. And then these beautiful Czech glass bells were in the Didi beads bundle, and I just was delighted. Like I said, this is one of the most inspiring boxes or, collections. If I had to like put my top 3, this would be in the top 3 for sure. I mean, it's always good. I never get one where I go, oh, I don't know what I'll do with that, or it's not my style. They're always good. So I guess that's why it would be, other curated boxes. There are months that they hit my style and other months when I can work with it, but it's not my love. But with this Czech bundle, it's always what I love. Isn't that so pretty? Oh my goodness. And I even considered to use everything up that I have and even make this a triple wrap bracelet. So I may even do that. Sometimes I wear a piece and decide that I want to make it longer. My thumb doesn't bend with my tool on it. Sometimes I will do that, and I might actually make this a triple wrap bracelet, just keep going with my components, although it's really lovely, but a third one might be pretty. I like the dangle, but a beaded chain, like this little beaded chain in between this chain, might be really stunning. And also, if I do that, I can make this as a necklace too. Like if I'm traveling, I can, it'll be long enough to be like a shorter necklace. So I think that I am going to sit here and make all of these components, and I'm going to attach it right here. I'm going to have this still be my adjustable part, but I think I'm going to bead all these components and make a third wrap on this. So I'm just going to get some more 20 gauge wire and do that. It's one of the things I love about simple loops and a beaded chain is you can really get creative with your design. You can easily adjust your length on things, without redoing your work. It's a classic for me. I return again and again to beaded chains for that reason. And I love the look of them. I think it's really elegant, and I'm a gold girl. So I love the gold metal presents and things, and I think it brightens up like these sort of denim blues, and I think this is so denim friendly too. My goodness, that would elevate jeans and a white t-shirt, just to a really polished, beautiful look. Okay, I made all of those links, so I have this beautiful faceted Czech glass round beaded chain, and I'll show you, I'll put it on, but I put one of my Czech glass bells as a charm right here at the end of this beaded chain, and then this is another wrap around of the bracelet, and then at the very end this is my adjustable part. So I've ended up for my length to be right with only 3 of the larger lengths of my chain, but then my lobster claw clasp can attach to any of those 3. And then I have 3 bells on the bottom, 2 of my little brass ones and 1 of the little Czech glass ones. And what's really cool is when I put this on my arm, it looks like I've stacked 3 bracelets, but the way that the bells, let me try to explain, the way that I've attached the bells, they actually land so that they are all together. As everybody knows, you cannot clasp a bracelet when you're filming. It's impossible. There's something about it, and I normally lay this over my arm so that I can clasp it. Let me do it the right way. Normally when I do a bracelet like this, I lay the part that I'm going to connect my lobster claw right on my wrist, and then I don't struggle. And for some reason I did it backwards, but can you see I worked it out so that this charm that's at the end here looks like a continuation of these when the piece is on. And so in that way I can come like right here with my lobster clasp, and it looks like I have stacked 3, or like I have a set of bracelets, and I love that the smaller beaded chain, it just kind of plays nicely. I'm going to let it just hang out on my wrist randomly, but that's how the little charms land. So I'm going to try to show you. So it looks like they're all on one you know, on one section, and the bracelet is adjustable. And with this, I could do it as a necklace too. So I did end up removing 3 of the links, and I have 2 of these left over. So I'm going to disconnect, and I may design another pair of earrings with this. So I have my beautiful little bell threader earrings, and I have this gorgeous beaded chain wrap bracelet. I can't say that I've ever done a wrap bracelet from a beaded chain. If I have, I don't remember it. I have added a length of chain into a strung wrap bracelet, but I love this. I think the effect is so pretty. I just think it's gorgeous, and it was really fun to make. There's the little framing technique in this project. So definitely check the description box, and don't wait if you really like this deluxe Czech bundle, because they are always in limited quantity. Stella does sell out pretty quickly of them, but as of the filming of this, there were still plenty available, and it's just a wonderful, inspiring mix of beads and a really good value, I might say. I do say. So I will also put links in the description box to all my tools, and the little bells will be there, and my gold filled lobster clasps, and the gold filled diamond cut jump rings, like all my favorite things. Those are things I reorder a lot for myself, and so that will all be in the description box if there's anything you want for yourself. But as always, if you don't want this bundle, or these are not your colors, but you like the design, you know, I encourage you to be inspired by my design and go into your stash and choose beads and, you know, do your own version of this. I mean, you don't always have to go get the beads. One of my jobs is to show you guys what's out there, what's available, what's on sale. And so, you know, I try to keep up with that for you, but, you know, feel free to enjoy the design and be inspired by it if that's your takeaway from this. So I thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody's safe and well and having fun on your beading mats, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, friends.